Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of the View co-host Sunny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases.
For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Sunny Hostin thought her worst day was behind her until Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus stormed in like a hurricane of sarcasm and lit the stage on fire with pure comedy chaos. Her husband's $450 million 0-cents courtroom disaster? That was just the appetizer. What followed was a roast so intense it could have melted steel beams. Tyrus came out swinging. Gutfeld didn't even flinch. And Sunny? Her silence was so ice-cold it could have won an Oscar for Best Actress in a Public Breakdown. But what juicy twist blew this media circus sky high? The courtroom madness was even deeper than anyone imagined. And the aftermath? It rocked the entire studio to the core.
Only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, you know, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, you know, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
For years, Sunny Hostin strutted onto The View like she was the high priestess of justice. Gavel in one hand, righteousness in the other. She didn't just share opinions, she delivered punishments. One wrong word and you were banished like a brunch outlaw. But now? Karma kicked down her studio door with a flaming subpoena. The queen of courtroom commentary found herself at the heart of her very own scandal. A jaw-dropping $450 million 0-cents legal explosion, and the co-star, her very own husband
or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
Bring on the irony. Break out the popcorn. Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus revved their sarcasm engines like they were about to roast Mount Olympus itself. For years, Sunny built a brand on being offended at full volume. Dramatic gasps, judgmental pauses, and moral outrage served on demand. But now, with her husband allegedly caught in a financial nightmare big enough to make FTX look like a bake sale, suddenly she's whispering about privacy and clinging to due process. Incredible! The same woman who pounced on every conservative blunder is now pleading for everyone to stay out of her business.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
When someone else was in the hot seat, Sunny was ruthless, hurling judgments like confetti at a scandal parade. But now that her own husband's under fire, silence! The same woman who filled airwaves with courtroom lectures suddenly vanished into the shadows of her own crisis. And just in time, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus arrived, armed with enough sarcasm to power a city blackout. They didn't just call her out, they bit down on the hypocrisy like it was a prime steak. This wasn't just a takedown, it was a glorious, flaming satire, sandwiched with Sunny right in the middle.
Makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
The timing was almost too perfect. Greg Gutfeld, the king of media takedowns, looked like he was hosting a party live on air, and Tyrus? He practically showed up with marshmallows to roast over the burning wreckage of Sunny's credibility. This $450 million 0-cent scandal exploded like dynamite. Allegations of financial chaos so huge, Enron looked like a typo in comparison. Mismanagement, fraud, the accusations piled up faster than a View argument about Trump. But Sunny, suddenly speechless. Her fire fizzled into static. The woman who once dissected lawsuits like a hawk spotting prey now clung to no comment like a life raft. Gutfeld turned his segment into a full-on roast, and hypocrisy was the punchline served hot.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead...
Let's be real. If hypocrisy were a sport, Sunny just took home the gold medal. Gutfeld ripped into the double standard like a kid unwrapping chaos on Christmas morning. And right behind him, Tyrus, sharpening his verbal blade with a grin. When he finally swung, it hit hard. Each jab slicing through Sunny's paper-thin moral armor. He didn't just point out the scandal. He shredded the smugness, exposed the hollow righteousness, and left her credibility in ruins. When the self-appointed queen of outrage drops her crown, you better believe Tyrus is there to snatch it, just to toss it in the fire. And the rest of The View? Completely silent. Joy Behar looked ghostly. Whoopi Goldberg barely moved a muscle. The same women who once melted down over a conservative stuttering suddenly forgot how to speak. Their silence? It was louder than any rant they'd ever aired.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They called him Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
But a $450 million 0-cent scandal hitting one of their own? Suddenly it's all whispers about context and nuance. How convenient. Meanwhile, social media went up in flames. Memes flew like sparks. Twitter didn't just roast Sunny, it flambéed her into oblivion. Gutfeld didn't miss a beat. He zoomed out and hit a bigger target. Media elitism. The kind where public figures scream accountability. But only when it benefits them. The moral high ground? It crumbled right beneath Sunny's designer's shoes. Gutfeld called out The View for its magical case of sudden silence. Where did all that passion for truth go? And Tyrus? He dropped a scorcher so dry it could dehydrate a cactus. He laughed at the absurdity. Sunny handing out legal advice while allegedly drafting statements to defend her husband's financial collapse? Her moral compass? It's spinning like a carnival ride in a thunderstorm.
End of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
And the most outrageous part? The View acted like none of it ever happened. Not a word. Not a mention. They can dissect celebrity breakups for half an hour, but when a $450 million 0-cent scandal crashes into Sunny's life, total blackout. Was it class or pure fear? You decide. Gutfeld wrapped up with a sarcastic mic drop that belongs in the Hall of Fame. He coyly suggested that maybe, just maybe, Sunny would like to swing by his show to chat about accountability. The invite was soaked in sarcasm and shaded so hard it could block out daylight. And Tyrus? He stared right into the camera with that smug grin that screamed, "Told you so." But here's the twist. This story isn't just about Sunny, it's about the entire media machine. These hosts shout about justice and ethics until the spotlight turns on them, and it's not about truth. It's about cover-up theater. They preach law like scripture until their own commandments get exposed as napkin doodles.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
Sunny's defenders came charging in, yelling, "She can't be blamed for her husband's choices." Sounds fair, on the surface, but this is the same woman who spent years dissecting the families of her political opponents like a one-woman investigation squad, and now she wants mercy? That's not a double standard, it's a triple-stacked hypocrisy burger with a side of denial. And guess what? The storm is just beginning. More revelations are bound to explode, and Sunny might have to do more than just pout behind the mug during ad breaks. Maybe she'll issue a carefully scripted apology, or vanish for a while on a sabbatical to nowhere. One thing's for sure, her credibility didn't just crack, it got incinerated. And The View? Let's not pretend it was ever a cathedral of journalistic purity. But this scandal tore the last shreds of its disguise clean off. Now we see it, a panel of performers scrambling like a political soap opera cast trying to shield one of their own. Want honesty or accountability? You won't find it here. These women could trip over their own contradictions and still blame Republicans. Reflection? Growth? Humor? Please. That's as likely as Sunny filing her husband's court papers live on air.
That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
If The View had a scandal mute button, Sunny Hostin slammed it so hard it probably cracked the desk, because this time, her entire reputation was on the line. The same woman who could rant nonstop about politics, injustice, or a bad tweet now couldn't form a single sentence about a $450 million zero-cents courtroom nightmare starring her own husband. Coincidence? Sure. And maybe Pigs just launched a fashion line. Gone were her fiery lectures. Gone were her legal buzzwords. Sunny, usually bursting with outrage, had transformed into a living, blinking, silent error screen. Viewers were stunned as she shuffled her cue cards like they were clues in a criminal case and delivered a performance that looked less like journalism and more like a silent soap opera. Every nervous sip from her oversized mug, every stiff glance screamed one thing. Don't ask me about the criminal circus crashing through my front door. Her body language was a silent scream. Arms folded like a tax audit, shoulders stiff like courtroom furniture. One minute she's nodding like she's grading law students, the next she's staring into space like her innocence is floating above the ceiling tiles.
She is shaming descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Somewhere between Whoopi's heavy sighs and Joy Behar's rambling monologues, Sunny sat frozen, like someone had just projected her husband's bail conditions on her teleprompter. And every time a topic even hinted at corruption or disgrace, she suddenly got fascinated by the studio floor. Her expression screamed, "Beam me out of here." It was like she thought if she stared hard enough at the carpet, it would open up and swallow her. And Greg Gutfeld? He didn't miss a beat. Every awkward twitch, every forced smile, he saw it all. And Gutfeld never misses. Usually, Sunny would interrupt with a booming, "Actually, that's not how due process works." But now, she was defending only one thing, her poker face. Too bad due process just showed up at her doorstep, and this time, it's real. The woman who once dominated debates with sheer volume now looked like a human screensaver, blinking, sipping, and praying not to be called out. And viewers were glued, waiting for her to snap and yell, "Objection!" Maybe even at her own reflection. But the silence? It wasn't peace. It was panic frozen in motion.
Anna went in a different direction. But I love the fact that, Manny is younger and he's
How
very...
much younger is he?
Just a little bit.
He's like 1 year, isn't he?
Like a month or a year or 10 years?
No,
5 years.
It's more than a year.
Oh.
Anyway, it's not about me. I think.
Oh, no.
I think that it's very helpful that he's handy, and when we travel, I'm not picking up any bags. He's the one that's hefting them overhead. He
Exactly.
throws the garbage out.
Right.
He does the heavy stuff.
Sorry, Sunny, but you can't cross-examine karma. And while she clung to that coffee mug like it held all the answers, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus delivered the guilty pleasure America didn't even know it needed. In a world drowning in double standards and pretend virtue, watching one of the loudest voices fall silent was more than just entertaining. It was justice with a punchline. Will Sunny bounce back? Probably. The View loves a comeback, as long as it fits their narrative. She might even rebrand the whole disaster as a learning experience and hit the TED stage with something like, "When public shame knocks, smile." But until then, the memes won't stop, the laughter won't fade, and Gutfeld and Tyrus, they'll keep circling this wreckage like vultures with microphones, because when you make a living handing out moral verdicts, it's only a matter of time before the gavel swings back your way. And for Sunny, it didn't just swing, it crushed the smug right off her resume. So next time The View dishes out one of their oh-so-righteous lectures, just remember, even the loudest voices can choke on their own scripts, especially when Gutfeld and Tyrus are holding the receipts. And the mic